Hey guys, it's Malcolm here once again, and the new gems and the updated gems were just then posted, and there's quite a lot to actually like go over and talk about with these, because it's probably the first like real kind of meta shift or even big change we've seen in quite a while, to be honest. So it's pretty exciting stuff. I wanted to just quickly mention, yep, I'll be doing like Ziz podcast, Ziz, Steel, and Quinn in just a few hours in the morning, and on top of that, yes, I will be trying to put out a video for starters. So the Flame Blast totem thing, I'll try and have a bit better of a POB for endgame. I tested a Slayer Cyclone with Frozen Legion, and that was super smooth throughout the entire campaign. Very comfortable melee build to get into. And I also want to probably delve into a Elementalist Tornado style attempt, and then post a sort of POB on that one in the evening tomorrow as well. We'll probably try and do some kind of dumb cosplay. Nothing too crazy, I don't think, this time around. Probably the thing everyone expects. So yeah, that. But I do want to get into the new gems that were posted. So there's the whole new mechanic from Mercenaries, and then some of them will have special gems, and they are of Trarthus, which is just a weird and complicated word to say. But they finally posted all of the info on all of these gems, and some of them are quite spicy. Like, this is actually quite a lot more than I was expecting from GGG. I was expecting kind of just a few, real weird things that are conditional and enabled by certain mechanics and stuff, but some of these look like they're going to be damn near breaking the game. So let's actually start off with Chainhook of Trarthus right from the top. This one is, I'm not too sure how to feel about it, because the idea here is that you're going to like throw out sort of like a series of chains against some enemies, and then if you move away far enough from them, it like kind of explodes in some damage, which may just feel kind of clunky, kind of weird, but otherwise it still has some sort of rage generation sort of thing. I'm sure someone's going to be messing about with this one, but this is not one I'm too keen to try and figure out and do much with to begin with, because it doesn't sound like the best thing based off of some mechanical shit, but it has potential. I think it definitely has still potential to be something pretty cool. Some explosions, some range stuff, whatever. In any case, they posted this one the other day, but you can see it a bit better here, and it is heavy strike with the potential to get 100% chance to deal double damage if you have enough int, which isn't a huge amount of int. So if you're actually stacking a decent bit of int with, like, let's say Inquisitor or an actual int stack build, you should be able to get 100% chance to deal double damage. And on top of that, you can scale some spell damage and then get even bigger damage through that sort of scaling. And it looks like that's part of the quality. So if you quality scale, you get even more of that Crown of Eyes style interaction. Overall, it should be pretty strong. I think it should be maybe built well enough, a bit better than the current heavy strike. The only problem is it's still just kind of heavy strike, which is a bit bland. Like, at this point, after playing for so long, like it doesn't really do it for me too much to just be kind of default attacking around, but being stronger. So to each their own. Someone may really enjoy this sort of thing. That said, maybe I'll give it a shot at some point. Also requires a staff, so that's a pretty big limiting factor. So this one is definitely on the low end of spiciness when it comes to these new things. The new Sunder, if I'm to understand this correctly, it is basically kind of like the volcanic fissure that chains, except it's just sunders that chain between enemies. And that sounds like it can be pretty damn fucking good for mass AoE clear, get a bunch of area, good damage, good attack speed, whatever it is. And apparently it sounds like these sunders will, once they connect with an enemy, bounce to another enemy. And if there's enough enemies, close by, it's just going to pretty much instantly explode. If there's a few straggling around, then maybe it chains to them. That's kind of what it sounds like. But overall, I mean, yeah, Sunder's already pretty decent for clear. This sounds like it's going to be quite a lot of fun. The big negative is still attack speed, 75% of base. That is always something you have to try and overcome to make sure you're having good fun with these sorts of skills. But yeah, definitely sounds like a bit of an a fun thing to play around with and get lots of explosions out of. Bladefall of Trarthus is very much an interesting one. It has all kinds of shit attached to it that never existed before. We've got an arcane tag, we've got an actual mana drain mechanic, 5% mana per second, and it sounds like it's kind of like an RF that just shits out physical sort of blades all around you based on the amount of enemies near you. This one's very weird and definitely one that I feel like are going to need to try and play with or have people experiment with before we figure out the best thing for it. But it definitely has big potential to at the very least be pretty damn messy and pretty damn fun. So this is definitely one of the big X factors of this entire thing. Who knows? Maybe it's going to be really good. Maybe it's going to be a bit lackluster. But at the very least, it seems like it's going to be good for clear. And maybe interaction with Blade Blast could make it still good for single target. So definitely an interesting one. And yeah, love to see what this thing's going to end up looking like. Blast Rain of Trarthus. I was a bit disappointed with some of the Ignite stuff coming out based off of the Elementalist, and Burning Arrow's always been a bit low, but this one may bring some kind of Ignite back because it's basically got its own built-in base fire damage per second, but then you can also have your own sort of hit associated with just regular arrows. But it is mostly going to be what it sounds like, kind of like a caustic arrow but fire scaling, and then still works off of projectile damage. Yeah, I don't know, this may actually be pretty damn fun and something to play around with. So I'm kind of keen to see where this one goes. I don't think I want to try it to begin with, because this type of thing may serve better with a whole bunch more gear and gem levels and proper stacking of the gem itself. But could be quite a lot of fun. I'm pretty looking forward to seeing what that one's going to be like. Siege Ballista of Trarthus. We did see plenty of teasers about this one throughout the announcements and stuff. But now actually seeing the gem, you can see that it functions very similar to Frozen Legion, which is a skill I've been trying to push forward and kind of enjoy, and even in the starter thing that I'm about to do tomorrow. It functions very similar because it just attacks once. So you summon a bunch of ballistas, they attack once and then they disappear. So it's like going to be a big sort of payload that you use sometimes when you need a bunch of burst damage, and not something that you're pressing and just running around like normal totem builds, just waiting for them to kill things. It's a bit more of a payload thing, so kind of cool because, yep, you can have, your usual skill with lightning arrow or something for clear, running around doing a bunch of clear, come across a tough enemy, press this Siege Ballista thing, they pop off, they kill one enemy, and then you move on. Has potential, I think, to be quite useful in a certain setup, because I love Frozen Legion right now with like a Cyclone setup, and it packs a big punch when going built into it. And this has potential to be quite similar, I think. Summon a ring ballista around target, these ballistas fire once. Yep. Just making sure I didn't fuck something up there. And then these two, or these three, but these two in particular really sound kind of wacky. So it's Spectral Helix of Trarthus and Spectral Throw of Trarthus. Basically the skills that we know and love, but they are trap form. And both of these actually sound quite a bit better than their original versions as traps, especially because of how much extra stuff there's going to be here. With Spectral Throw, you fire 5 projectiles in a circle, and then they will, of course, still come back. And you can throw out so many more traps than you can throw out typical attacks, I'd say. And then this by default has 5 prods like that. So this sounds like it's going to be pretty wacky, and then you also don't have to really care too much about your positioning. You throw some traps and hopefully things come back. And if it interacts well with Sniper's Mark like regular Spectral Throw does, then yeah, this has potential to be really just PC breaking. Because Spectral Throw MTX, the golden one, the one we know and love, Banana Throw, with 5 extra prods, with like 20 traps being thrown out and traps constantly proccing as you're throwing more traps out, and Sniper's Mark and the return. I don't know, this sounds ridiculous. And in particular, it sounds like it's going to just have a shitload of effects that are going to destroy frames. So it's going to be pretty interesting. And Spectral Helix, quite the similar situation. You're going to throw out a lot of these and then just have a lot of chains. And Spectral Helix in particular cares a lot about positioning. Like, you want to be next to the enemy and you want to be like up in the mix of things. Whereas as a trap situation, you're just going to be able to throw it and see how it goes. I think both of these have potential to be pretty overpowered. Of course, they could be kind of lackluster as well, but yeah, I'm pretty keen to do at least one of these, and maybe even have to pivot some of my starter action to try that out. Spectral Shield Throw we've seen already a bit of, and I really don't know how it's going to function, like how well it's going to go. Like, it seems cool, throw out a shield, it hovers, it pulses a bit, but I feel like this is one you're going to have to feel out and see how it is. It should, in theory, at least be better for single target than regular shield throw, I'd say. So that has historically been more of a problem for Spectral Shield Throw. Clear's great, and like the actual targeting and like throwing the shield doesn't always feel great. So this might solve two of those problems and become quite a strong contender. Typically, though, you do want Emperor's Vigilance to start off a good Spectral Shield Throw or shield skills, and that's going to be a bit tough to get early on, so, you know, be wary of that. Dark Pact of Trarthus is a big X factor as well, because this one has pretty low base damage, and then it scales entirely off of your life, and you have to attack like 7 times or cast like 7 times, and then on your 7th hit, 50% of your life will be sacrificed to deal 400% of sacrificed life as chaos damage. So if you got 10k life, which is a pretty decent amount for a life stacker without going super overboard into the pure life mechanics, 5k life, you know, gets sacrificed, which can be a bit clumsy with these sorts of sacrifice builds. But then you get out of that 20,000 base chaos damage. That is a lot of base chaos damage to work with, especially for things like Ignite. It already says 50% less damage with elements, but 10,000 base instead. I think there could be big potential there. The cast time's pretty fast too, so, you know, people are somewhat touching on the fact that 7 Ruin might take a while to build up. If you're scaling any sort of cast time, you know, 7 Ruin being built up with 0.5 base, it shouldn't take you longer than like 1.5 seconds. So it might actually still be pretty clean. It is still Nova, you can still use the Astral Projector ring with it, so, you know, a bit more range targeting. But this one's definitely pretty interesting. I wouldn't really want to be doing any life scaling memes early on into a league because it's not super comfortable without all the right setup. But yeah, that's one to look for sure. Stormcall, I'm really not sure what to think about on this one. We already saw it posted earlier. It feels like it could just potentially be a bit underpowered. Changes all your lightning into fizz. It basically turns it into kind of like a reap, but with a bit of an extra puddle. Maybe more like a caustic arrow, I suppose. I don't know. I'm really not sure about this one. I hope you know, people make it work and do some things. It's probably lower on my list of things I want to try. I think it may have potential, but on the surface, it might be a bit lackluster. We'll have to wait and see on that one, hey? Wave of Conviction of Trarthus. I spotted this one during the reveal trailer, because when you first land, or one of their first characters like does an attack and you see your Wave of Conviction go out and then come back in, I'm like, oh shit, is that a new gem? And turns out it very much is. It is Wave of Conviction, but it goes in a circle and then will come back too. Has potential to be a real good clear skill. Has potential to do some pretty good damage for single target, I'd say. Has potential to be scaled off of quality, because I think that's what the damage penetrates Ellie Res is. So overall, this one definitely has some big potential, and Wave of Conviction has some really good MTX as well. So, you know, maybe something to look out for. And then Focus Channeling looks like it has some pretty good viability for pure channeling sort of stuff, spells in particular. Sported skills do 24% more damage per second, channeled up to a max of 60. So it might be uncomfortable for some mana cost stuff, but typically you should be fixing mana cost to the point where it's not really a problem for a lot of these sorts of things. Something like Blight might enjoy this one quite a lot, but 60% more on a gem is pretty significant, and definitely going to be seeing some use in some channeling stuff. Yeah, that's pretty much all there is to it, right? And then they, of course, show you a whole bunch of things. Like, I've messed around just recently with Cyclone and even more area on it. It does sound like it's going to be pretty damn good. Aside from that, the main thing I only really wanted to talk about is Golems. Golem and Elementalist looks like it's going to be pretty spicy. We did lose, like, I think a bunch of Golem effect, but it was kind of made up for by the fact that a lot of these Golems have slightly higher numbers or slightly different and better numbers. Take Flame Golem, for example. The damage should remain roughly the same that you're getting from it with the buff effect and stuff, but instead you get pretty much 60% area just from being an elementalist and clicking this Flame Golem thing with the extra golem scaling. That's quite a lot, and I'm very keen to get into that. 60% defenses, something like that from Stone Golem, pretty thick as well, especially if you're going like, let's say Armor ES. So I'm pretty interested in going for an Elementalist and maybe doing some Tornado stuff, or maybe some other stuff and keeping it flexible. Maybe Wave of Conviction is what we want to go with that, because there's a lot to like about the current Elementalist. Overall, I will just say, as far as the gems and everything is concerned, we were left off in a pretty powerful state when it came to Path of Exile 1. So all things aside, all things equal, almost anything you pick with some love and some work into it is going to end up a fairly powerful build, especially with a lot of the new stuff out there. So yeah, there's not really too much to go wrong with. Like, I know a lot of people are going, what's the best starter? And, if Ben is doing this, should I do... Fucking pretty much doesn't matter. You more or less pick whatever you think is going to look pretty nice. Maybe follow someone's build so you don't have to worry about, taking bad passives and stuff. But pretty much everything with the right amount of work, I think right now is going to feel pretty good during the campaign, feel pretty good during early maps. It's just up to how enjoyable that these builds are going to be in, like, tier 17s more or less. Because really good builds feel pretty good in tier 17s. Most other builds feel kind of shit in tier 17s. And that's just where it's at. Like, tier 17s are just kind of a dumb sort of outlier to the rest of the game. And I would not be worried about that too much at all if I were you. But even then, most builds can do the tier 17s. It just won't feel good. So I'll hopefully have a bit of a better video for you guys, probably roughly this time tomorrow, and it will be on some of the starters I'm looking at. But I'm pretty excited about these new skills. This is going to keep us fairly busy, I think, and there's going to be some pretty crazy stuff going on with certain builds and certain interactions. And yeah, I'd say we are once again pretty back. This is looking like some reminiscent of very fresh, unknown Path of Exile stuff. There's going to be a kind of a new meta established, and it's going to be kind of exciting. So there's also a Twitch drop thing and Twitch sub thing. So if you want to pop over to the stream and watch some of the stream and then drop a couple of subs, that would be lovely. Or you can do that for anyone. That's fine too. I would do my best to not disappoint with a scuffed cosplay. Probably one you've seen before. Hint, hint. And we'll go from there. So with that, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys next time.